who was it that said, like, there is an issue, there is a problem, this is affecting our daughter, or was it you?
Um, it was most likely me because I kept saying, "Oh, I don't feel good," and so they thought it was the blood transfusions, and so that's why they kept getting me tested for mono and
Okay.
also AIDS and things like that because it was the
Really?
80s. But of
Yeah.
course, I'm fine.
Right.
But it was, they didn't, that was just something that they worried about.
Right.
But when I got to, I would say, not until like high school times, then that was when Adderall started to become popular. So they're like, well, she doesn't have mono. She does get strep throat all the time, but that's normal for kids her age in school. But that was really to my immune system.
Got it.
Looking back at it. And then they're like, she's just ADD, go get her tested.
Really? Like, that was their solution?
Yeah, I mean, it was just because I couldn't pay attention and I was forgetful and, having to reread pages at school like 100 times and it wasn't registering and just not making very good grades.
So looking back, are you attributing that to being so uncomfortable in your gut?
Yeah, 100%. It was all food related.
Really?
And then I took the 6-hour psychology test. They make you do silly things. It's
Right.
nothing that's going to really tell you that you're truly ADD.
Right.
And then, I was put on Adderall and I instantly, did feel better because obviously you're on this amphetamine.
Right.
But also your digestion speeds up. So I obviously had slow digestion from having the digestive issues being premature. And from there, my grades went up and the short-term results were amazing. But after about a year, started having a lot of side effects, and then it only got worse from there.
So I'm going to come back to the side effects, but I want to kind of get into Adderall because there will be people listening that have heard of it that really don't know what it is. So and Adair and I, we've, we're newer friends, but we're kind of in this little like 30-day to change group together.
Yeah.
And she's so knowledgeable in offering like supplements, and you've really done a lot of research, and we're going to get into that as well. But just give us kind of layman's terms what Adderall is and what, obviously we know why you were put on it, but why most people are prescribed it.
Yeah, they're amphetamine salts, and so a lot of kids are put on it these days, and even now at the age of 5, which is really scary because you're not even, developed at that time. But Adderall does help with your concentration. However, when you overtake it or you're not prescribed correctly, then it's going to put your adrenals in like in a fight or flight. So you're constantly pushing out cortisol. So it's kind of like drinking a ton of caffeine all day, every day.
Right.
But the main thing with it is that once you start taking it, you get addicted, and so you take it and then you have to take more to get that same effect.
Right.
So to get that mental stimulation, you're like, oh, I don't even feel it, or I'm used to it.
Right.
So then you're like, I'll just double it. Or all of a sudden you're taking it, it's past 3 o'clock, and then you can't sleep at night. So you're taking like Tylenol PM at night to sleep, and then more, and it's just like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So at what age did they finally put you on Adderall?
I got on it when I believe I was like in the 10th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, like you said, at first everything was good. Did it actually help your bloating?
Yeah, because all of a sudden my digestion was actually
speeds it up, right?
It makes great. Yeah,
function.
so I was like feeling like $1 million.
Right.
You lose weight.
Yeah.
I did obviously it had to figure out when to take it with the eating, because then otherwise you're not hungry, and then you start to realize you become moody and mean, and like my friends would call me Adderall. They're like, watch out, Adair's on her Adderall. It's not Adair, it's Adderall. But then after about a year or 2 of taking it, I figured that schedule out so that I would eat and then take it and so on. But if you took it on an empty stomach, you wouldn't want to eat for hours. So it was like, definitely didn't help.
Right. And I have heard from a lot of people that are on it, it's pretty easy to be prescribed it, especially nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Doctors are so ready to write a prescription because we all know they make money on the scripts. And like, it's kind of sad that girls are using this for a diet drug or for an upper or whatever. And like, I get it. I understand the reasoning behind it, but we're going to get into the science of what it can actually do to somebody.
Yeah.
So 10th grade, you were prescribed it, started taking it. Everything was good for like how long do you think?
I mean, my grades were amazing, and then I would say about 2 years into it, I started to just take more. I feel like to have that same effect, and that's when like I kind of started having like insomnia issues.
Do you tell your doctor like I'm not feeling the effects anymore, and do they up your dosage, or do you like self-diagnose and just start taking more?
I think they just kind of overdiagnosed me to begin with.
Right.
So I broke up the 20 milligrams and started taking like 5 milligrams like a couple times throughout the day, rather than I believe I was like prescribed 10 milligrams twice a day, and then it got then they gave me 20. They didn't really know. I mean, the drug was, I know it wasn't new then, but it was new, like popular. That was like when it became very popular. I know it had been around way longer than that. But they kind of didn't know, and they didn't care.
Sure.
And, I mean, if I was like, oh, I don't feel good, they're like, oh, that's interesting. You know, there wasn't really anybody checking in on me.
Really? Like you just showed up occasionally at your doctor and they just keep re-prescribing?
I don't even remember having, I mean, I remember kind of just getting my refills, and I don't really remember having much of a come that often.
Yeah.
And like, let me ask
or
you
like
questions
really
about
how
it.
are you feeling conversation.
No.
That's now that I'm thinking back, that's the same with me and my medication for, you know, depression and then later bipolar. It's like you had to show up once a year to get the 12-month refill, but you showed up and they're like, what, is everything about the same? And you're like, yep. They're like, okay, here you go. There was no like, let's really check in and see how you're really feeling, and do you really still need this, or maybe you need more, whatever. But there's none of that.
No.
It's the problem.
I just was like, oh, I just need more. Give me more. They're like, okay.
So this is like end of high school, going into college.
Yes.
Like I need more, you're being prescribed it, and then the side effects kick in?
Yeah, I mean, I think by my senior year of high school, I started to be more aware of it myself, because I was, you know, trying to be healthier, and like after I was in a really bad car accident. I got in a car accident my junior year, and doctors told me I wasn't going to walk again.
What?
So the airbag came out and broke my leg in 2 places, dislocated my heel, and that was kind of like a big eye-opening moment for me of like, okay, I really need to pay attention to what I put into my body.
Were you driving?
I was the passenger, and so I was sitting like a guy, kind of like a square knee type situation, and we were on Peachtree Road, and an older gentleman was pulling back into his retirement home, and we T-boned at me, but he didn't even like see us.
Oh God.
And that, I wasn't at that time worried about the Adderall.
Right.
I was like paying attention to like the food.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, I need to stop eating fried food or pizza or like all of that. You know, they weren't calling it gluten then. But it was like, just eat cleaner.
Right.
But I still was taking lots of Adderall. However, I did kind of, you know, drink more water, was trying to like be more mindful about everything. And that's when I started to notice like, like this sleeping thing could be a problem, or, you know, my digestion, like when I take this makes me really go to the bathroom.
Right.
So it was like putting those things together, especially because I had a couple of weeks out of school.
Okay.
And that was when I started to become more aware of it, not to the point that I let it change, but and then I went off to college, and then I started to notice like, okay, I am like using this to survive life, like study, go out with friends. I'm taking it on my days off of school. So then I started to be more mindful and not allow myself to take it on the weekends.
Okay.
But that took time. And then you start to realize that you really want it on the weekends, otherwise you're really tired and you can't go socialize. So it was like, why am I taking this to socialize? This is like a problem.
Right.
But I was like, well, I'll just get through college and worry about it later.
Yeah.
Always. And then it was after college when I was living in Charleston, and I was training for a half Ironman, and I wasn't drinking, I was eating really clean, I was doing all these detoxes and cleanses, and then I was literally like on my 60-mile bike ride that we were training for, like popping Adderall halfway through, and I was like, okay, this is bad. And I, like, everybody else was getting like really skinny and in shape. Right. And then I was getting puffy and inflamed from all the cortisol. And so it was like, okay, Dare's not looking good through the training for the half Ironman. Everybody
Something's
looks
not
amazing.
ready. Something is not aligning.
My
here.
hormones are like out of whack, you know. Like,
Wow.
but again, I was like, well, okay, I'll just not worry about it. I wasn't worried about it. And I was seeing this acupuncturist at the time, and I was having all those digestive issues.
Yeah.
And that's why I was doing the detoxing, because I did start to notice, that my stomach was burning about certain things, and I couldn't really figure out what.
Right.
And she was the first person to say, maybe you should, take less Adderall or stop taking it.
It's funny how we're getting advice from an acupuncturist versus our like doctors with degrees, right?
And I was doing this cleanse with her, and I was like, well, I'll give up the chicken, but I can't give up the Adderall. And so I did her like whole food cleanse. It was like basically you were a vegan for 30 days.
Okay.
But I couldn't give up the Adderall during it. And I did feel drastically better from that food cleanse. I didn't eat anything packaged. And this was, again, when I was like 22. So that was like a big thing to do when you're 22. Give up alcohol for 30 days and, eat really clean. But that was when I was like, okay, I'm starting to think about, why is she telling me to give up this Adderall? Like, why is Adderall so bad? Everybody's taking it.